peeps. Just to let you know, we have a countdown for e-learning days. We have 5 e-learning days left, so we don't have much time. Just hang right in there. Speaking of 5 e-learning days left, this Friday, the 22nd, is the last day to accept any late work. It's also the last day to accept your genetics project, research project that you have going on. Teachers need that time to process them, grade them, get everything in, so your grades will be done on time. So any late work, any assignments up to the genetics project are due by Friday. The assignments that I'm assigning you this week will be due by the following Wednesday, the 27th. But if I don't have them on the 27th, I will no longer accept them as assignments either. So that's the bad news. Now, the good news, I think. There are many of you that have expressed the desire to try to bring up your grades because we haven't really had any tests or assessments. It's hard to do it with digital learning. We did the one check for understanding, and then we have the project, which I'm classifying as a test or assessment because it's a big project and it covers multiple topics. I expect you guys to do very well as long as you're following the directions of what to include on the project. So I wouldn't stress too much there. As long as you use that as a checklist, go through and make sure you include everything. For the check for understanding, if you are not happy for this from the score, it's really kind of too late to go back and try to do a retake on this particular one, especially because I released all the answers. They're floating around. I did a little screencast explaining the answers. And so I don't feel comfortable doing that. But what I will offer you is the chance to score up to 4 extra credit points next Wednesday, the 27th. And that's going to be test points. Now, here's the deal. 4 does not sound like much. The assessment was 13 points. So that's like what? Like 30% of the assignment. So you can raise your grade up by 4%. What you're going to do is you're going to do a Flipgrid. I'll have a Flipgrid link posted. It's not required, but if you do it, I will look at it and I will raise your score. What you're going to do is you're going to talk about what you do know about genetics, inheritance, and probability. So those questions on the checking for understanding, you can use those as a guide. You can answer those questions, but I want to see you talking in a Flipgrid video and not just reciting something off of the internet word for word, but talking in your own voice, explaining it to me. And you can earn up to 4 points by doing that, okay? So just use the checking for understanding as sort of a guide for the points that you want to talk about, okay? Practice it beforehand, before you do the post that you want to submit. Now, I say up to 4 points. Here's the deal. You cannot get higher than 13 out of 13 on this. I am going to cap it at that. There are quite a few people who did get 13 out of 13, and I'm very, very proud of them. And I'm not saying that you don't deserve the 13 out of 13, but I'm not going to let you go higher, okay, than they did. And so I'm going to cap it at 13 out of 13. If you had a 12 out of 13 and you do the Flipgrid extra credit and you get all those points and you talk about everything again, I'm only going to give you 1 point to take you up to 13. If you had 9 points and you do the exact same Flipgrid, well, don't do the exact same one. That's plagiarism, right? That's like copying off your neighbor and using their notes. You have to talk in your own language. But if you cover the same points and you had 9 out of 13, yes, you can get all 4 and get up to 13 out of 13 as well. If you had 8 out of 13, you can make it up to 12 out of 13. Okay, so I think 4 points is a very, very fair and generous comeback for that. Okay, so that is the extra credit opportunity for those interested in raising that assessment piece. Okay, 4 extra credit points. The Flipgrid will be available next Wednesday. Now when I say next Wednesday, that's the 27th. Now, there will also be a required Flipgrid that day for class points. That required Flipgrid is just going to be an easy schmeezy reflection on advice you would give students coming into biology, your favorite topic of the year type deal. Okay, everyone's going to ace that and get the full credit for that 10 out of 10 class points. But those that want the extra credit plan on doing that extra credit Flipgrid as well. Okay, so that's the extra credit option. The other thing I want to talk about is what's going on this week. So this week, we are going to be in week 19. Oh gosh, 19 weeks of the semester, like half of it, we've been doing e-learning. This is what you're going to see when you go into it. So if you have not done so, please watch the daily announcement. That's what I'm doing right now, is this daily announcement that you're going to watch Monday, 5/18. It has information about extra credit. I just talked about that. The project. Okay, so for the project, I have people emailing me right now saying, what do we need to include in our project? What do we need to talk about? I'm pretty sure that I covered that in the slides. So just to go back through that, when you were on in your slides and you had, was it inheritance basics? I'm just going into my, oopsie, I'm in the wrong account. Going back into my account so I can show you how to get there. I'm probably going to pull up all your guys's. So I might click on someone's. I won't look through all your answers. I won't show it on the screen. But, oopsie. Inheritance basics. Obviously, I spelled inheritance wrong. Okay, I don't know who this is, so I'm going to skip through it. Let's see who the lucky person is. Gavin, sorry, you're the lucky person, but I'm just going to the end because everybody had these slides, and if you weren't able to open them up, most of you, or complete them as a handout, most of you guys emailed me a copy. But the point is, all of you had this on slide 18. Okay? Genetics disorder assignment. And I know that you were able to get there because you had to complete this whole slide sheet as a assignment, and you had to complete the check for understanding, which was in slide 17 right here. So slide 18. And I had a video last week or the week before talking about these directions. When you click on it, it gives you the instructions of what to include. It gives you a sign-up sheet to sign up and choose your disorder. Scroll down for requirements as well as resources to get you started. This is what I'm grading you on. So if you don't have the introduction, name and disorder, name of the disorder and your name. If you're missing either of those components, if you don't have the name of your disorder or your name in there, no, you cannot get the full 2 points. You will get 1 out of 2 or 0 out of 2. Okay? Definition of the disorder. I'll be looking for 2 parts. Description of the symptoms. Okay, there's only 1 part here, but it's worth 2 points. Causes of the disorder. So there's 8 points here. There's only 2 things, 2 bullets here. So if I were you, I would guess that it's around 4 and 4 unless you don't have any triggers. And I know these diseases. A couple of you have written, is it okay if I have a lot of information about how it's inherited, but not much about the evolution? I know which disorders you have. And some of you will be heavy in one area and light in another. And that is okay, as long as you address it. There's not much information, but what is given is this. That is completely fine. Okay? Just go through and address that. If you had trouble, there's not much research in direct testing. Right here, I'm just kind of highlighting it where my cursor is. Then state that in your project, and that's fine. Okay? I try to lay it out so there's no weird things that I'll be looking for. I'll be looking for right here. I'll be going through and I'll be checking off each of these bullet points if it applies to your particular disorder. Okay? So that's the information about the project. The project, I would like it due by Wednesday. If you can get it to me by Friday at the very latest, that's fine, but I will not take it after Friday. It will be a 0. And that is something, even though we say late work is accepted during distance learning, the cutoff date is the 22nd for this. Okay? So that is my other, I'm sorry, that's sad, but we got to go on. So the project and a few notes on natural selection. So last week you watched about the mice in the desert, and about the two different colorings. And you should have seen that there was a variation in the colorings. We had the tan and we had the dark. And you should have seen in the video that certain colors did better in certain environments. In the dark colored lava environments, the dark colored mice performed better. They were able to hide from the predator up above. Okay, remember the predator coming down, sweeping down? They call it the Snickers of the desert, its little treat. And so the coloring, the fur color, was an adaptation in that case. Okay. However, if you take that dark color and you put it into a light colored desert, it is no longer an adaptation because it is no longer helpful for that organism. Over time, you should have seen in the video that there was an increase in the frequency of that trait. And that's another thing with natural selection, okay? That frequency of that trait increased over time because it was an adaptation, because there was variation to begin with. And so that's the idea with natural selection, is that there's variation because of the DNA. We talked about how variation gets there in the first place. There's variation in traits, and some traits do better than other traits in a particular environment. Take it out of that environment and place it in a different one, and it could change, and that's okay. That's what evolution is. It's changing. It's changing over time. It's adapting to the environment. Also, natural selection is one way that evolution, this change over time, happens, but it's not the only way. Artificial selection, which is when humans kind of intervene and try to produce specific organisms with specific traits, especially like when we're looking at plants, you'll see that a lot. And pets, you'll see that a lot too with artificial selection. That's another mechanism. But we focus in biology mostly on natural selection because we like to see that homeostasis in the environment, that balance in the environment and how it maintains it. Now, I know this topic, natural selection, evolution, there are some people that are going to be like, ooh, this is weird. This is uncomfortable. I don't know if I should be watching this, just because it's like kind of how you grew up. And I know that that's okay. I'm not asking you. Sometimes people are like, well, I don't agree with it. This isn't what I was taught to believe. I don't need you to believe, but I want you to understand this is the science perspective, and you can always use it how you want to use it, but at least you understand what the science perspective is. With that being said, there is this, I think it's like a 4 or 5 minute video. It's not over 5 minutes, from TED Ed, Myths and Misconceptions about Evolution. If you are struggling in this like section of science, watch this video. See if this helps kind of bring some balance to your brain and to your heart. I like to do this. This is an awkward unit to do kind of separate from you guys. And this is a unit that I love discussing with students. And I love teaching students the scientific way of dealing with evolution and evidence that we have. But unfortunately, it's hard to do that when we're not in a classroom together. So this will help alleviate some of these hesitations, I think. So go ahead. Number 2 is watching this. And then number 3, this is one of my favorite videos to show in science. It's not a fiction movie. It's not, a Netflix movie. But it is an amazing look and glimpse at human evolution and evolution of other organisms. It's called Inner Fish, and it's by Neil Shubin. And some of you may have heard this. It was a national bestseller. It's called Your Inner Fish, A Journey into the 3.5 billion year history of the human body. It's by Neil Shubin, who has researched through the University of Chicago, and he is a paleontologist. And a lot of what we've done this year, HHMI activities, have to have Neil Shubin in it. He is he's great to listen to. He talks very well. He presents data, and it's just his approach is very interesting, I think. There's actually 3 different segments of videos through PBS and HHMI: your inner fish, your inner reptile, and your inner mammal. But we're just going to watch your inner fish here. There's also and Wednesday I might just for the fun of it include it. There's also an interactive that kind of continues on with it, so you can look at different body parts of the human and see like what it has in common with other organisms, suggesting that perhaps there was some kind of common ancestor years ago between them. Okay, and it's kind of an interesting glance. And what we're doing is we're using evidence, data, to draw conclusions about relationships. And so when we're looking at evolution, we're saying natural selection is one way that it happens. We also have to have data that it's happened. And so usually the data comes in a few different forms. It comes through fossils. Fossil evidence is one. It comes through DNA evidence. DNA evidence is probably the most, at this point, useful because it shows the most similarities, the most differences to the microscopic molecular level. The most minute ones, even if it's minute enough that you don't see a difference, but it's there, it can spot. So DNA evidence is our most useful one now. We can look at geographical evidence, where organisms are located. We can look at embryological evidence, and they'll talk about that in there, how organisms develop from fertilization to the adult organism. And so you're going to look at these different types of data or evidence that scientists have collected to form these conclusions about how organisms may be related. Okay, and so that's what you're going to be doing on Monday and Wednesday. It's in Edpuzzle. It's called Inner Fish. There's questions embedded in it. Usually I love to watch it with you so I can stop and chit chat along the way. I'll probably do something on Wednesday, a little announcement talking about a couple of the highlights in it. But open your ears, enjoy it. It's kind of interesting to hear about things that you makes you think in a different perspective than maybe you're used to thinking about. Okay? And so that's what this Inner Fish is. That's why I'm giving you 2 class periods. It's 55 minutes. There's a spot to upload it, but with it being the end of the semester, I'm going to be going through this weekend anyways to be checking on assignments, so I can always double check through Edpuzzle and see if you completed it then as well. Finally, I do have a look ahead here on Friday. We're going to explore evolutionary relationships through a simulation or through that biointeractive where we look at the human body. Next Wednesday, you will have that extra credit opportunity that I talked about and a Flipgrid reflection. And finally, our last class period, all I'm doing is a survey. It will be super easy. So it will not be a stressful week next week. Let's just put it that way. So let me know if you have questions. I know a few of you have emailed me over the weekend about grades and whatnot. So I will be looking at some of those Sunday night, tonight. And the rest I will be addressing tomorrow while you guys are working on assignments. And I will be grading. Okay? So let me know if you have questions. Bye, guys.